This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Dustin Hoffman.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Huffman. Today is Wednesday, May the 29th, 2024. We're so glad you could join us. Coming up a little later on in the program, we get some movement on a farm bill in the House, and we get reactions from it. But first, let's go ahead and take a look at the markets.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
Well, we're at the end of another trading day, and it's time to talk with Kenan Layden of agmarket.net. And Kenan, we kind of got off to a low start to the day. How did the grains finish up today?
Yeah, it was a bloodbath across the grains today. All the grains were higher. Soy oil was probably the bright spot on the day. It held in there. Looking at the grains here today, you could say it's maybe a risk-off day. Unthreatening weather maybe is playing into the market as far as the U.S. goes. From reading the last Russian forecast, isn't as bad as it had been, so that might have took some risk off and weed some of that premium that had been worked into the market. And the grain complex just worked lower across the board throughout the day.
All right, and you mentioned soy oil was a little bit higher. What was supporting that?
Some of that could have been some of the spreading, and some of the oil prices worldwide and demand. There's just been some different things that, have led to that part of the soy complex being stronger.
Okay. And then moving over on the livestock side of things, we got the cattle on feed report after the trade ended on Friday, 3-day weekend for everybody to digest it. We saw cattle react yesterday, but, now today, how did the cattle and hogs play out on the livestock side of things?
Yeah, cattle gave back most of their gains from yesterday that they had. Both live cattle and feeder cattle closed off of their lows, which was good to see. That live cattle contract held at the 200-day, which is some important support for it. The cattle complex has had big movements. Some people are saying possibly that, a seasonal spike after Memorial Day, some of the demand may be leaving. But if you look at cash prices, they've remained strong with box beef up again. So cash is strong and the market didn't really, it's kind of a contradictory story to what we saw on the board today. But the cattle market does have those bigger, larger volatile moves. And I saw that the limits for feeder cattle and live cattle have possibly even changed today, maybe due to some of that volatility. As far as hogs, another down day. They opened up great, up in the contracts across the board, and seeing that was awesome. But then they've sold off throughout the day. They weren't able to push through that 200-day moving average on contracts, which has kind of been some resistance. They're oversold on the technicals, but it doesn't seem to be able to gain any traction. Pork cutout has also been, good prices there compared historically, some of the highest prices since last August. But it's just, technical selling and possibly has just been pushing those hogs higher since they haven't been able to hold at any of the key resistance points.
All right. Well, we appreciate the insight, Kenan. And if folks want to talk with everybody at agmarket.net, kind of get some market strategies in place and think about what they should be doing there to get the most out of it, how do they get in touch?
Yeah, just search for us on the web at agmarket.net and find a local broker in your area and pick their brain and see what they can do for you in your operation.
All right. Well, Kenan, we thank you so much for joining us here today, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
Thank you.
That again was Kenan Layden of agmarket.net. Let's go ahead and take a look at the closing numbers here on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network market screen.
At the close, July corn was down 7 1/4 at $4.55 1/4. July beans down 15 1/2 at $12.14 even. Soy meal down $7.50 at $3.69.10. Soy oil up 36 cents at $45.88. Chicago wheat down 7 1/2 at $6.92 3/4. Kansas wheat down 11 1/2 at $7.19 3/4. Minneapolis spring wheat closed down 5 1/2 at $7.52 even, and oats up 7 1/2 at $3.84 1/2. On the Merck live cattle for June, they were down $1.20 at $183.35. Feeders for August, $4.35 lower at $260.25. Lean hogs were down 2 cents at $93.77. Pork cutouts unchanged at $102.25, and Class 3 milk was 11 cents lower at $19.36.
And that's been our market recap. We're going to take a short break and hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association, and the Soy Checkoff. When we come back, the Farm Bill has movement in the House. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Welcome back to AM PM. I'm Dustin Huffman. Well, it took approximately 13 hours for the House Agriculture Committee to send their version of the Farm Bill from their committee to the full House for a vote. Last week, Chairman Thompson had already had a markup of the Farm, Food, and National Security Act of 2024. And it was a 13-hour day for the chairman and all the committee members. But at the end of the day, they passed the bill out of the committee with a bipartisan vote. And that means it moves on to the House floor. Next, it's up to the leadership in the House to see when they have time to put the bill up. And it still has to go through the Rules Committee process, but it advances favorably with a bipartisan vote. And then there's hope the House leaders can continue that momentum and bring this important legislation to a vote on the full House floor. The congressional calendar could pose a challenge as we get the bill through the House. It's going to be tight, as there are tight margins in both chambers for the votes, especially in the House, and there's a crowded congressional calendar. Now, we all know that this fall is an election, which means the whole House and a third of the Senate and the presidency is up for grabs. And after the August recess, many lawmakers will be back in their home states stumping to get your vote ahead of the November elections. So it's going to be an interesting separate opportunity, but it could also be a very good opportunity to move a bipartisan version of the bill forward. But of course, that means what happens in the Senate. Debbie Stabenow, chairwoman of the Senate Ag Committee, released her version of the Farm Bill, full version, when we were out there last month for Washington watching the NAFB. And right now, we know that the Senate and the House versions are going to be very different. Now, Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley says, though, that he feels that Chairwoman Stabenow will be willing to find compromises with other Republicans and maybe find a closer version to that of the House bill, and hopefully the House will follow suit and compromise as well. Grassley says that he thinks she's trying to work something out in the U.S. Senate, and she wants to leave that legacy of having a farm bill finished as she retires at the end of this congressional session, and she doesn't want her legacy to be a farm bill as a missed opportunity. And so she's already pitched several ideas to Senator Grassley and other Senate Republicans to see if they would be willing to compromise on certain areas in order to get other concessions from the chairwoman. Grassley says he wants to see his USDA Spending Accountability Act cap the Secretary's Commodity Credit Corp spending and his free discretion as it was advanced in the House bill in their version of the Ag bill. Chairwoman Stabenow does not include that provision in her framework, but Grassley is trying to get that on board. He says it will save $8 billion to boost crop subsidy triggers and reference prices. Stabenow and Bozeman won a commitment from Secretary Tom Vilsack earlier to tap into the CCC for trade promotion help, and Stabenow has lobbied House Democrats against CCC and SNAP limits. Grassley, meantime, says the Majority Leader Schumer isn't ready to put a farm bill on the Senate floor, and he's more interested in other Senate priorities. Well, that's been a check of the update on the Farm Bill, and that brings us to the end of today's program. You can find all our content online at iowaagnet.com. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, X, LinkedIn, and our YouTube channel. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell icon so you're notified each time we put out a new product. Don't forget about our 3 market podcasts, middays, openings, and closings, all free of charge, sent right to your mobile device through Google, Amazon, Apple, Spotify, and Podbean. From the IARN studios in Des Moines, I'm Dustin Huffman. For Riley Smith, Mark Magnus, and Andy Peterson, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.